Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to talk about two different but similar experiences I had at two different shows that I went to in the past couple of months. I wanted to talk about everything that was great about these shows and some gripes that I had while I was experiencing them. And yes, the title is correct. We will be talking about Lord of the Rings, Sailor Moon, and the Minecraft movie all in one video. I should first explain the shows that I went to, the first of which being Lord of the Rings Live. Now you might be wondering what that is. Basically, you're in your standard concert hall, tiered seats, a balcony, the whole 9 yards, and you had a pit with about a 200-piece orchestra and some stands for about a 100-person choir, and then above that there was a big movie screen where they were playing the movie. And they took all of the music out of the movie, and the orchestra and the choir were making the soundtrack with the movie. They were perfectly in sync. It was amazing. Anybody who's a Lord of the Rings fan should definitely go. It was well worth about the $75 the ticket was, and you really experience the music differently when it's played live. It gave me those goosebumps that you can really only experience when watching live music. And again, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, definitely something you should check out if it ever comes to your area. Now here's the thing. I have zero complaints about the movie itself. We all know those movies are perfect, and the musicians did just that.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
I had to sometimes snap out of watching the movie and actually remember there was a live concert going on in front of me. They were that good and that synced up with the movie that I totally forgot sometimes and was just watching the movie. And I had to keep reminding myself that this is a concert. My complaints had more to do with the crowd itself, and I think most of us would agree that an active crowd, for the most part, is a good thing. You know, when crowds are singing along and dancing to an artist's best hits, or if a crowd is laughing at a comedian, it means that he's doing really well and connecting well with the crowd. And even for movies, for the most part, like, I enjoyed when Captain America finally picked up Thor's hammer and my theater went absolutely crazy. There's something special about experiencing something with a large crowd of people that makes it more memorable in that moment. Like, the emotions that you would have felt by yourself seem to become more potent when you're experiencing the same emotions with a large crowd of people. However, the show in my mind is a concert first and a movie second. Like, we all know that Sam is going to say Frodo. We all know Gimli's going to make a joke. We all know Aragorn's going to bring the army of the undead and save the day. So why the hell are you cheering? I don't have an issue with people still finding joy in these big moments, but this movie came out, get this, 23 years ago. That really makes me feel old, but these aren't new moments to enjoy. The actors aren't present, and usually when you're cheering for these moments, those are the biggest crescendos. Like, those are the biggest parts and the best parts, in my opinion, of the music. It's the climaxes of each, you know, song that's going on in the background. So when you're cheering at these moments, you're actually drowning out the experience that you paid money to go and see, which is the live music. So that was just, you know, it really kind of annoyed me that you're cheering or laughing at a moment that you've seen hundreds of times over the past 23 years was now interrupting the show that I actually went to go and see, which was, again, the music. I don't want to bring people down, but I feel like the appropriate time to clap or cheer, at least in this specific instance of watching this movie, was at the end of the tracks or at the end of solos. Anything that had to do with the music, those largest moments musically, is when you should have been clapping. Now, obviously, it didn't ruin my experience that much. I mean, it probably brought it down from a 10 of a 10 to about a 9 of a 10. And I definitely feel like I got my money's worth. You know, it's just something that I had an issue with while at that show. The next show I went to was the Sailor Moon live show. For any non-weebs who are watching, Sailor Moon is one of the foundational pillars of anime. It's constantly on recommended lists. It's constantly on top anime lists. It's one of the highest rated animes to this day. It's one of those genre-setting shows, kind of like Dragon Ball Z or Neon Genesis Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, etc. It's an anime that shaped the magical girl genre. So the live show was interesting, to say the least. It covered the first arc of the Sailor Moon show, and I have to say the actors did a phenomenal job acting anime. Their mannerisms and how they sound and their speech patterns were pretty spot on for how a lot of anime is. For you subs are better than dub people, yes, it was all in Japanese, and they had subtitles on a screen in the background that also had other graphics that had to do with the rest of the set and shows and songs that they were singing while it was going on. The light show was great. Again, the actors were great. The story was definitely fine, in my opinion. I'm not a huge Sailor Moon fan. I only watched a couple of episodes while actually my girlfriend was rewatching the show in preparation for it. But I had seen those couple episodes, and just being on the internet in general gave me a basic understanding of the Sailor Moon tropes and what I was going to be getting into. So once again, the show itself was great. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. Happy I went, and well worth the money. It was, again, the crowd that caused me to not give it a higher rating and really started to irk me and give me a pretty big headache by the end of the show. They cheered at least every 2 to 3 minutes, and that's being generous. It was probably more like every minute. Overexcited screaming, like the artist just stepped on stage, Michael Jackson turned his head, your team just scored a goal in the World Cup type of screaming. Every 2 minutes. Every time a character appeared on stage or introduced themselves or defeated an enemy or used one of their special magical moves during a fight, the crowd would cheer. And I don't know if you've seen anime or specifically Sailor Moon, that happens all the time. They transform into their superhero fits all the time. They like to say their moves all the time. They introduce and say their names all the time. So if you're getting annoyed at me saying all the time, imagine people screaming at the top of their lungs every time that happens right next to you. And again, you're overshadowing and covering up what I came to see. Like, I was having trouble hearing the songs and hearing the actors because the crowd was just going nuts over their favorite characters. Like, I understand the first time you see each individual character appear, introduce myself, or after climaxes, or even after every song. But, like, come on, every single time they would go off stage and come back on stage, they would be screaming. And what was more annoying to me is there were specific times in the shows where the actors were like encouraging the energy, but they never seemed to die down and actually like enjoy the rest of the actual production, which was the songs and the choreography. They were just screaming at the fact that their favorite character was on stage again. And what was worse is sometimes I would notice it was like sections of the crowd, and it was obviously people who were cheering and voting for their favorite character again and again and again. I get it, but keep it in your pants. Like, come on. They're your favorite. Please shut up now. La 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 lava, The last show that I want to talk about is the Minecraft movie, and as of recording this, I haven't personally seen it, and I definitely will not be seeing it in theaters. I personally don't think it looks good enough for me to want to spend money, and because of all the
chicken jockey,
I will definitely not be seeing it in theaters. I find
chicken jockey
memes hilarious from a distance, but it is super over the top. It's not like the Minions movie meme, if you guys remember that from a couple years ago, where everybody dressed up in suits and went in big groups. This is just active destruction, where people are trying to get their stupid viral TikTok moment, actively throwing popcorn buckets and slushies, and everybody's seen the one where the guy brought at least once a live chicken to the theaters, and that's crazy to me. It kind of reminds me of my high school senior prank where it was just destruction. There wasn't a theme or a joke or a minor inconvenience. It's just straight up vandalism. The poor theater workers who have to clean up after every show better be getting like overtime pay, or at least like Minecraft movie hazard pay. And what's crazy to me is these people are buying multiple buckets of popcorn just to throw them all over the theater. That's expensive. And I don't know who would want to waste that much money just for a 2-second TikTok moment. which they probably won't even be noticed for anyway. From what I've seen on YouTube while I was researching this issue, I think a lot of people would attribute this to main character syndrome. I would tend to disagree that it is main character syndrome when it came to the Lord of the Rings show or the Sailor Moon show that I went to. I would definitely agree that it's main character syndrome when it comes to the Minecraft movie. Most of that audience being Gen Z, who are plugged in and influenced by social media trends, trying to fit in and get their own viral moment. And I definitely don't want to shit on Gen Z. I'm borderline Gen Z myself. But I can recognize the environment we grew up in fostered this unhealthy culture regarding social media challenges and trends, and really blurring the lines between what is acceptable and what makes good content versus not. And I think a lot of these people are just trying to get their viral TikTok moment and follow the trends that they're seeing online. I would like to identify the issue that I'm having with the other two shows. I don't necessarily think it is main character syndrome, but something else that people who talk about these types of issues lump in with it. It's a generalization, I suppose, but I would really like to identify and parse out the differences. In Sailor Moon and Lord of the Rings, these people who are being loud and excitable are not attempting to take the spotlight for themselves, and they're not trying to take it away from the performers. I think that's the biggest and primary difference between main character syndrome, like what people are doing at the Minecraft movie, versus what they were doing at these two shows. These people aren't necessarily looking for their Wattpad concert moment. They're just really excited to see Lord of the Rings and Sailor Moon in these specific scenarios. I think the main issue with the Lord of the Rings concert that I'm having is the audience having their priorities mixed up. Like I said when I was explaining what the show was, people seem to be reacting more to the movie itself rather than the concert that we were attending. I think that has to do with social pressure or stigma or expectations to laugh at certain jokes, to cheer at certain lines and acts, and in general react to the movie in the standardized ways that the fandom as a culture has formed. Meaning that if you don't react in a very specific way to a specific point in the movie, you're not actually a true fan of Lord of the Rings. Personally, I think the Lord of the Rings fandom is one of the most open and welcoming fan bases that there is on the internet, excluding all the reactions that everybody had to the Rings of Power when that was announced. But it is still susceptible to a form of gatekeeping in the form of expectations on how to watch the movies and how to enjoy Lord of the Rings. And those expectations are what people prioritized over watching the actual concert. To be an upstanding member of the community instead of just enjoying the content that was right in front of them. You know what I mean? This is the difference that I see and why I won't call it main character syndrome. Each person seems to actively just be trying to fit into the community rather than making it about themselves. In short, their reactions seem to be more a performance for the rest of the audience rather than a genuine response to the concert. Now, with the Sailor Moon audience, it just seemed to be immaturity that was driving these actions. I also hate to jump on the bandwagon that ever since the pandemic, the concert-going etiquette has just been destroyed for some reason. I don't think people were trying to draw attention specifically to themselves. I think they really just wanted to cheer and scream when the favorite character did something, regardless of whether it was considerate to the rest of the venue or not. I mean, no one was singing along with the music. I don't think anybody there spoke fluent Japanese and could, and these were unique new songs that aren't in the show. And I'd compare these actions a lot to what I see how Disney adults kind of act like. Like, I hate to break it to you, but you guys do know that that isn't Sailor Moon up on stage. And like I was saying, these songs aren't actually in the anime either. So now you're actively smothering unique and new Sailor Moon content in favor of just expressing your excitement. And I think my girlfriend actually had a particular issue with that, because the last time they had Sailor Moon live, there was only an instrumental CD release. And as of reading this script right now, there's no word of getting a vocal version of this production, digital or physical. There was also a strict no phone or recording policy, except for the special event at the end. So by screaming, you're ruining potentially the only experience you're going to have to hear these songs. and call me a hater, but I would really rather have heard the singers instead of screeching. Everyone needs to watch Facebones from Death Clock a few more times. These are the most recent examples of where I have personally experienced this phenomena. Is this a problem specifically with shows/concerts? Because in the past few years, I've been to other events that are geared towards fan bases and fandoms where I haven't noticed this sort of behavior. For example, I've been fortunate enough to attend Brandon Sanderson's Dragon Nexus, a convention geared towards his literature. And in the panels and book readings that they had at this convention, everyone was very respectful. They took the appropriate cues on when to clap and when to cheer and when to ask questions, etc. So I don't know what makes these particular events different. I don't know if it's just the heightened energy at being at a concert that makes people forget proper etiquette. I think it's just unproductive to lump all these types of scenarios together rather than parse through the nuances of why people might be acting this way. So what do you guys think? Am I just a hater? Am I looking for explanations that aren't there? Have you noticed similar behaviors at shows that you've been to recently? Are these still the effects of the pandemic, or has it always been a thing and we're just noticing them more now? Let me know in the comments, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.